Have you ever stood in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? True strength doesn't shout, it endures, quietly, patiently, and unseen. It's the man who keeps walking when the road disappears, who carries pain without bitterness and peace without applause. Some call it loneliness. The wise call it transformation. Let's uncover what it really means to be that man. Let's step into the first chapter. Picture a man sitting in a dimly lit room long after the noise has faded. No messages, no applause, just the hum of his own thoughts echoing back at him. Most people would call this loneliness, but for him it's the beginning of something sacred. Because solitude, when embraced instead of feared, becomes the forge of a stronger soul. There comes a moment in every man's life when silence grows louder than the crowd. When he stops chasing people, recognition, and love that must be begged for. When he finally understands that solitude isn't emptiness, it's clarity. It's the mirror that reflects everything he once tried to hide. Now imagine this. The world around you spins faster every day. Endless voices demand your attention, notifications, opinions, expectations. Everyone is talking, but no one is listening. And yet, in that chaos, there's a rare kind of man who chooses stillness over noise. He doesn't need to display his peace for others to believe it. He doesn't measure his worth by how many eyes are on him. He simply steps away from the crowd, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. Seneca once wrote, "I never spend a day in idleness. I never pass one without some improvement." Solitude to him wasn't a withdrawal. It was cultivation, the deliberate tending of one's inner garden. Picture that quiet. No voices telling you who to be, no masks to keep wearing. In that stillness, the mind begins to breathe again. Thoughts that were buried under obligation and noise rise to the surface. You start to see which ones belong to you and which were planted by others. You realize how much energy was wasted trying to explain yourself to people who never truly cared to understand. That's the strange gift of solitude. It strips away the false layers until all that remains is truth. Here's where strength reveals itself. When a man finally stops running from himself. When he can sit alone and face the weight of his thoughts without flinching. Most people spend their entire lives running, filling every moment with sound, entertainment, and distraction to avoid meeting the stranger inside them. But the strong man sits with that stranger until they are one and the same. He listens to the ache in his chest, not to fix it, but to understand it. He meets his own shadow without judgment. He learns that peace built on someone else's presence is fragile, but peace that comes from within, that's unbreakable. In those quiet hours, something begins to shift. The world stops controlling you. The opinions of others lose their hold. You no longer crave distraction or approval because you've replaced the crowd's noise with your own rhythm. Days alone become your training ground, your private temple of focus. This is where patience is born, where the mind refines its edges, where the heart grows steady. The Stoics called this discipline of solitude the art of mastering the self before trying to master the world. Let me tell you a truth that every strong man eventually learns. Not everyone you love will walk beside you forever. Some are meant to teach you, not stay with you. Their absence isn't a wound, it's a whisper. A reminder that you were never meant to depend on borrowed strength. The strong man loves deeply, but he does not cling. His love is a gift, not a leash. When he stands alone, it's not pride that keeps him steady, it's peace. From here, the transformation becomes quiet but profound. Solitude stops feeling like an empty room and starts feeling like a sanctuary. The stillness you once resisted becomes your teacher. It teaches you restraint when anger calls, focus when fear shouts, calm when the world demands reaction. The strong man learns that in every moment of stillness he is building a fortress within himself, one that cannot be shaken by rejection or loneliness. Because when you can sit with yourself and not feel the need to escape, you become impossible to break. And so, if you find yourself spending more time alone lately, don't resist it. Don't rush to fill the silence. Let it carve you, refine you, reveal you. Every great soul, every thinker, every Stoic, every man who ever stood unshaken was shaped not by applause, but by solitude. The crowd builds noise, stillness builds character. When you make peace with solitude, you've already won one of life's hardest battles. You've discovered that your own company is not a punishment, it's a privilege. It's where your strength is sharpened, your thoughts purified, your purpose reborn. And from that quiet, unshakable place, every other piece of life begins to fall into place. Because true power isn't found in being surrounded, it's found in being centered. Moving into the second chapter, imagine walking through a crowded street where everyone is shouting to be seen. Each voice demands recognition, every gesture craves approval. But in the middle of that noise, there's a man who walks quietly, his eyes forward, his steps steady. He doesn't need to be noticed because he already knows who he is. That's the kind of strength the world can't understand, the strength that no longer seeks validation. There was a time when you cared deeply about what others thought, when their opinions could build or break your peace. You wanted to be understood, to be accepted, to be seen as good in the eyes of the world. But life has a way of humbling you. Pain becomes a teacher that comfort never could. Every disappointment, every judgment, every betrayal begins to shape a new understanding. You realize that most people don't see you as you are. They see you through the lens of their own fears, insecurities, and unhealed wounds. And once you see that truth clearly, their words lose their power. What they think of you no longer defines you. The Stoics warned against living by the opinions of others. Seneca wrote, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich." A man who seeks applause is like a sailor who steers his ship by the cheers of the crowd instead of the stars. The noise may feel comforting, but it leads nowhere. Validation is like salt water. It quenches your thirst for a moment, but the more you drink it, the thirstier you become. The strong man knows this. He no longer needs praise to confirm his worth. His proof lies in his discipline, his integrity, and his peace. Now imagine the quiet that follows once you stop explaining yourself to everyone. When you no longer rush to defend your choices, when you no longer feel the need to prove your goodness or your strength. That silence is uncomfortable at first. But within that discomfort lies freedom. Epictetus reminded us, it's not the events of life that disturb us, but the judgments we attach to them. The same applies to the judgments of others. They're nothing but echoes of minds that do not know your path. When you stop letting those echoes dictate your steps, something shifts. You start walking lighter, freer, truer. There's a beauty in being misunderstood and not feeling the need to correct it. People will label your calmness as coldness, your independence as pride, your focus as obsession. Let them. The strong man doesn't waste breath defending truth to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. He lets his life speak, his results, his consistency, his peace. They become his quiet answer to every doubt. He learns that explanation is unnecessary when the truth is evident in the way he lives. I once knew a man who built his craft for years without recognition. He worked in silence while others mocked him for not chasing trends. When he finally rose, everyone called it sudden, but there was nothing sudden about it. His growth was silent, deliberate, patient. That's how self-respect works. It doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself through endurance. At this stage, you begin to understand that real confidence has no volume. It's not the voice that shouts. It's the presence that doesn't need to. You no longer connect with people to fill a void, but to share value. You don't seek their approval. You offer your presence. You don't perform. You simply are. That's the mark of true peace. Freedom stops being an idea and becomes a daily practice. It's not a political idea or a dream for someday. It's the quiet in your heart when you wake up and know that no one's opinion can move you from your path. It's the ability to walk alone without feeling lost. It's the understanding that the applause of others fades, but the echo of your own integrity endures. From here, you stop running after validation and start walking toward purpose. You no longer measure your worth by the noise around you, but by the stillness within you. When you live this way, your relationships change. They become deeper, more authentic, because they are no longer built on what you can gain, but on what you can give. So, when no one praises your discipline, when no one acknowledges your effort, smile quietly, because that calm means you finally belong to yourself. You're no longer performing for the world, you're living for truth. The man who finds peace without approval has mastered one of life's hardest lessons. His worth was never meant to be given by others. It was always meant to be recognized by himself. And that recognition, once found, can never be taken away. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine a man standing in the ruins of what once gave his life meaning. The phone call that changes everything, the betrayal that cracks his chest open, the silence after loss that feels heavier than sound itself. Every man meets this moment, the kind of pain that steals the air from the room. But the difference between breaking and becoming lies not in what happens, but in how you face it. The strong man doesn't run. He breathes. Pain has a way of visiting uninvited, doesn't it? It doesn't knock politely. It storms in, demanding everything you thought you'd mastered. It strips away illusions. The illusion that life owes you fairness. The illusion that comfort means safety. The illusion that love, success, or health are permanent. But once the illusions burn away, what remains is the truth. Suffering is part of the human design. To resist it is to resist life itself. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate. To not only endure what happens, but to accept it as the raw material from which strength is forged. Now imagine yourself in the middle of that storm. The instinct is to panic, to grab for distractions, to drown in noise, to find anyone or anything to make the ache stop. But the strong man does something else. He stands still. He feels the wind without fighting it. He allows the pain to exist, but he does not allow it to rule him. He knows what Marcus Aurelius once wrote. If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it. The storm is never what breaks us. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. When life hurts, most people resist. They ask, "Why me?" But the strong man asks, "What is this here to teach me?" That one question changes everything. Because pain, when faced with calm, transforms from punishment into instruction. Every heartbreak softens pride and deepens empathy. Every failure sharpens clarity. Every loss strips away what is unnecessary and reveals what truly matters. The Stoics understood that pain, like fire to iron, is the very force that hardens the soul. Without fire, there is no steel. Without struggle, there is no strength. Let me paint you a picture. A blacksmith at his forge. The hammer strikes, the fire roars, the metal bends and glows. It looks like destruction, but it's creation. The flame doesn't weaken the steel, it purifies it. Life does the same to us. The blows we fear are the ones that give us form. The scars we carry are the signatures of lessons learned through endurance. And though the world sees them as marks of pain, the wise see them as emblems of wisdom. At this stage, calmness becomes more than a practice. It becomes armor. It's not that the strong man doesn't feel. He feels deeply, but he has learned to hold emotion like a stone in his hand, examining it without letting it burn him. He no longer reacts in the heat of pain. He pauses, breathes, and lets reason step forward before action. That pause, that breath, is where power lives. It's where choice begins. There's a quiet dignity in facing agony without collapsing into it. You stop making decisions from the chaos of feeling. You stop feeding pain with panic. You start to see it clearly without the fog of fear. And when that happens, something extraordinary takes place. Pain loses its chaos. It still exists, but it no longer defines you. You can face it directly and whisper, "You no longer own me." I've met men who have lost everything, family, work, purpose, and still carried themselves with calm eyes and measured breath. Their peace wasn't denial, it was understanding. They knew the same truth Epictetus taught. We cannot control what happens, only how we meet it. That's not weakness, that's mastery. When others fall apart, the strong man stands centered. He doesn't posture or pretend he's unaffected. He simply refuses to let bitterness take root. He turns pain into wisdom and wisdom into peace. He knows that on the other side of pain lies understanding. On the other side of acceptance lies freedom. So when pain returns, and it always does, welcome it like an old teacher. Sit with it. Listen. It will tell you something about yourself that comfort never could. And when it finally leaves, as all storms do, you will find yourself different, stronger, steadier, quieter. The kind of strength that doesn't roar, the kind that no one sees but everyone feels when you walk into a room. Because calmness in pain isn't the absence of emotion, it's the victory of reason. And that victory is what makes a man unshakable. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine walking through, in a world where truth often whispers while vanity screams, where the loud are celebrated and the honest are ignored, where attention has become the new currency and silence the new rebellion. In this world, standing by your principles is no small act. It's war in disguise. Every day you are asked to trade authenticity for approval, to blend in instead of standing firm. But a strong man, a stoic man, chooses differently. He stands by what is right, even when that means standing alone. There will come a time when doing the right thing will cost you something. It might cost you friends, opportunities, or even your reputation, but it will never cost you your peace. Because when you betray your principles, you trade clarity for chaos. The crowd may cheer for a moment, but deep down, you'll feel the fracture. Seneca once said, "Virtue is nothing else but right reason." And Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple words, yet they demand everything. To live by them is to live free from the disease of pretending. Now imagine you're offered a deal that promises wealth but feels wrong in your gut. The room is filled with smiling faces waiting for your yes. That's the moment of truth, not the easy kind, but the kind that tests what you really stand for. Most people bend. They tell themselves it's harmless, that everyone else would do the same. But the strong man walks away, not because he's above the world, but because he refuses to be owned by it. He knows that peace built on dishonesty is slavery dressed as comfort. The Stoics believed that the only true good is virtue. Everything else, money, fame, approval, is decoration. You can lose them all and remain intact if your character stays unbroken. But once you compromise your integrity, even the richest life becomes poverty of the soul. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that popularity is a shadow. It disappears the moment the sun moves. But honor, once rooted, endures like stone. I once met a man who was admired by everyone. He had charm, power, and wealth. But in private, he admitted something that never left me. He said, "I don't sleep well. Every success I have was built on something I know wasn't right." It was the confession of a man who had gained everything except peace. He had applause, but no self-respect. Approval, but no foundation. That's when I understood. Respect from others can never replace respect from yourself. At this stage, choosing principles over popularity becomes a quiet revolution. You stop living to be liked. You stop shaping yourself to fit expectations. And yes, people will talk. Some will call you stubborn, others will whisper arrogant, but let them. Integrity often looks like defiance to those who compromise easily. You're not here to please the crowd. You're here to live with honor. The Stoics taught that a man's character is tested not when life is easy, but when doing the right thing brings him pain. That's when you find out who you are, not when you win, but when you refuse to win dishonorably. There will be lonely nights, yes, times when standing firm feels like standing against the entire world. But that loneliness is not emptiness, it's clarity. It's the space where your conscience can breathe again. When your actions align with your values, there's no guilt, no confusion, no need to explain yourself. You can look into the mirror and see a man who did not sell his soul for applause. That reflection, that quiet certainty, is worth more than every compliment combined. From here, life simplifies. You attract a different kind of respect. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that lingers. People may not always agree with you, but they will trust you. They'll know your word has weight. In a world full of masks, you become something rare, real. And that reality draws the right kind of people closer while pushing the shallow ones away. The strong man walks with quiet confidence because he knows what he stands for. He doesn't waver with trends or opinions. His foundation is internal, not borrowed. And when the world tests him, and it will, he doesn't flinch, because he knows that popularity fades, but integrity echoes. Applause fades, integrity echoes. So don't chase being liked. Chase being respected, especially by your own conscience. Because in the end, it's not admiration that makes you strong. It's peace. Peace that comes from knowing that even if no one sees it, you stood for something real. And a man who stands for something real never has to fear falling for anything else. At this stage, imagine a man who has seen too much of the world, the betrayals, the disappointments, the cruelty that hardens most hearts. Yet somehow his has not turned to stone. He's walked through fire and still chooses warmth. That is true strength, the kind that chooses compassion over cynicism. In a world that celebrates coldness as wisdom, remaining kind is an act of rebellion. Cynicism comes easily. It's the shield of those who gave up on hope. It's the voice that whispers, "Never care again." It's safer that way. You've probably felt it too, the urge to close off after being hurt, to call numbness peace. But the Stoics would say otherwise. They believed that reason and empathy are not opposites. They are allies. To understand others deeply without losing control of your own emotions, that's mastery. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids." It's a simple truth that demands immense courage. We are meant to care, even in a world that makes it difficult. Now picture this: a man wronged by someone he trusted. Most would plot revenge, sharpen their words, or retreat into bitterness. But he takes a different path. He sees the wound, acknowledges it, and instead of poisoning himself with anger, he studies it. He asks, what made them act this way? That doesn't mean he excuses it. It means he understands that pain often breeds pain. And that insight frees him. The one who understands the source of cruelty is no longer enslaved by it. He learns to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because he deserves peace. This is where the line between strength and gentleness blurs. The strong man can be firm without being cruel, gentle without being weak. He doesn't use his strength to dominate others. He uses it to protect what is good. He knows that compassion isn't softness, it's clarity. It's the ability to love without attachment, to forgive without forgetting, and to walk away without hatred. The world may mistake his calmness for indifference, but it's not. It's understanding. He's been through enough storms to know how fragile people truly are. And so, he moves carefully, deliberately, with a kind of quiet grace. Let me tell you something the weak can't understand. It takes far more courage to remain kind than it does to close your heart. Anyone can give up on people. Anyone can mock goodness and call it naivety. But it takes discipline to keep faith in humanity after seeing its worst sides. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." That's the compass the strong man follows. He doesn't wait for the world to deserve his compassion. He gives it anyway. Picture him again, walking through a crowded city filled with frustration and noise. Someone bumps into him and mutters an insult. He could lash out. He could prove his dominance, but instead he breathes. He understands that anger is contagious, and he refuses to spread it. His silence isn't weakness, it's control. That moment, invisible to the world, is where his true power lies. People often say kindness is weakness. They couldn't be more wrong. Cruelty is easy, detachment is easy, but to stay kind when the world tempts you to harden, that's the highest form of discipline. Compassion demands patience, self-mastery, and faith in something larger than pride. The shared struggle of being human. The Stoics saw this not as sentimentality, but as logic. To harm another is to harm yourself. To lift another is to lift the whole. When you live this way, you start to see the ripple effect of small kindnesses. A quiet word, a gentle act, a moment of restraint. They travel further than you'll ever know. You don't need to save the world. You just need to treat the next person you meet with decency. Because every act of compassion weakens the empire of cruelty just a little. The strong man chooses compassion not because he's naive, but because he's wise enough to see what hatred costs. He's felt the weight of anger before and refuses to carry it again. He knows that cynicism corrodes from within, that revenge burns the hand that wields it. So he sets his heart free from bitterness. He chooses clarity over resentment, peace over pride. And if you, after everything you've endured, still care, don't doubt yourself. If you still believe in goodness after witnessing cruelty, you are not weak. If you still open your heart when it would be easier to close it, you are one of the strongest men alive. Because the greatest proof of strength is not how hard you can strike, it's how deeply you can feel without breaking. Entering the final chapter, imagine a man walking alone before dawn. The city still sleeps, the world still quiet, yet his mind is awake. He doesn't announce his efforts, he doesn't announce his progress. He simply moves, slowly, deliberately, with purpose in every step. This is the strength of silence. In an age where everyone broadcasts their every thought, where even the smallest effort demands applause, his stillness becomes defiance. He's not interested in being seen. He's interested in becoming. The strongest men are not the loudest. They don't parade their pain or justify their journey. They walk their path with quiet conviction, guided not by attention, but by alignment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is the essence of this strength. The strong man no longer talks about his values, he lives them. He doesn't need to convince anyone because truth, lived consistently, speaks for itself. Now imagine years of effort with little reward, long seasons of doubt, setbacks and unseen labor. Most would quit when no one claps. Most would stop when progress feels invisible, but he endures. He wakes up, does the work, faces the day, and keeps his peace. No grand speeches, no declarations, just presence. Because the Stoics taught that true growth doesn't need an audience. The work that transforms a man always happens in the dark, when no one is watching. The roots grow long before the tree breaks the surface. There is something profoundly powerful about moving forward silently. The quiet ones are underestimated. They're rarely celebrated, but they are impossible to shake. When the crowd chases recognition, the strong man chases mastery. He knows that real victories don't arrive in bursts of applause. They arrive in the small moments where you choose discipline over comfort, effort over excuses, peace over noise. Every sunrise he greets with action is a declaration. I will not wait for permission to evolve. From here, the world begins to test him. Doors close, friends disappear, plans collapse, and yet he keeps moving. Not out of blind persistence, but out of trust. He trusts that every challenge is carving him into something steadier, wiser, stronger. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The silent man understands this. His calm is not ignorance, it's faith in the process. Even slow progress is progress. Even unseen effort carries weight. I once knew a craftsman who built violins by hand. It would take him months to finish one. No audience, no rush, no noise. When asked why he didn't promote his work more, he smiled and said, "Wood grows slow. Music deserves the same patience." That stayed with me, because that's life. The most beautiful results are born from quiet consistency, not noisy ambition. The man who can keep moving without validation is unstoppable, because nothing external fuels him, and therefore nothing external can stop him. At this stage, silence becomes his strength, not his absence. His stillness is not emptiness, it's focus. It's where his power gathers. While others scatter their energy proving their worth, he conserves his by living it. He's not racing others, he's mastering himself. That's what constancy means in Stoic thought. An unwavering commitment to live in harmony with your values, regardless of circumstances. The storms may rage, but he remains unmoved because his compass points inward, not outward. The world, obsessed with performance, won't understand him. They'll ask, "Why aren't you louder? Why don't you show more?" but he doesn't need to. The oak doesn't explain its roots. The mountain doesn't justify its stillness. Their presence is enough, and so is his. When he speaks, it's from substance, not show. When he acts, it's from purpose, not pressure. His results whisper, but they echo far longer than any noise ever could. And over time, something beautiful happens. The results appear. The work bears fruit. The same people who once overlooked him begin to wonder how he did it. But he doesn't answer. Because by then, he's already moved on to the next step, the next lesson, the next mountain. He doesn't chase moments of glory. He lives for moments of perseverance. That's his reward. So keep moving forward, silently, steadily, unshakably. Because the man who can walk alone in peace will never be lost, no matter how long the road. Applause fades, but purpose endures. But the one who walks with purpose, quietly mastering himself, becomes untouchable. His silence becomes gravity. His focus becomes power. And one day, when the world finally sees him, it will realize he never needed their attention. He was becoming unstoppable in the silence all along. True strength has never been about control or dominance. It is not about the noise you make, but the peace you keep. It lives in the quiet places where no one is watching, where you choose discipline instead of pride, and integrity instead of attention. A strong man does not need to be seen to be powerful. His strength is not built in the spotlight, but in the silence of his own growth. It is forged in long nights of solitude, in pain faced with calm, in choices made with conscience, and in moments where walking alone was the only way forward. The truth about strong men is simple. They have made peace with their solitude. They trust themselves when the world goes silent. They remain calm when pain arrives. They stand for what is right when compromise would be easier. They stay kind when cruelty surrounds them. And they keep moving forward, not for recognition, but because they refuse to stop becoming. This kind of strength cannot be borrowed, bought, or faked. It is shaped through struggle, through patience, and through countless unseen moments that no one else will ever know about. If you recognize even a part of yourself in these 6 signs, understand this truth. You are already walking the path of inner mastery. You do not need applause to confirm your worth. You do not need to prove that you are strong. The very fact that you continue to grow quietly, to face what others avoid, and to stand steady through storms is proof enough. The world may not always see your battles, but it will always feel your presence. That quiet, grounded, unshakable presence of a man who knows who he is. So, as you finish this message, take a moment to breathe and reflect. Strength is not what you show, it is what you choose. If this message spoke to something deep within you, consider subscribing so you can keep walking this path with others who understand the same silence. And in the comments, write 3 simple words. I stand strong. Because that is what you do every single day, often without recognition, often without witness. Remember, real power is calm, real wisdom is kind. And the man who learns to stand alone never truly stands alone because he carries his own foundation within him. Stay steady. Stay awake. Your next level of strength begins right here.